Hello everyone, welcome back to Raw Faith, a father and son's journey through the Bible. Today we are at the chapel of St. Peter's on the Wall in Bradwell-on-Sea. Built in 654 AD by St. Ced, this chapel would have originally been made of wood. It was then rebuilt with stone from a nearby deserted Roman fort. Out of the ruins of an old tyranny rose this place of worship which still stands today and is one of the oldest largely intact churches in England. In this episode, my dad and I read through the first part of chapter 5 of the Gospel according to Matthew, the beginning of the Sermon on the Mount. We hope you enjoy. All right, Dad, we're back again. Been a bit of a while since the last one.
Yeah.
What's been going on with you since we last filmed?
I think the biggest thing that's sort of affected me recently was last week we had, where I work at Southend Airport, we had a very dramatic and very fatal aircraft crash, where an aeroplane rolled over on takeoff and burst into flames on the airfield. Very close to where I work, probably only 500 yards away from where I work, and there was 4 people killed and burned in it. And it was on a Sunday, so we weren't there, fortunately. However, it cast a big shadow over the airfield, and I think one of the main reasons is that I'm an engineer, and in aviation, everybody spends all of their life trying to prevent an accident such as that. Everything you do every day of your life is all based around the backdrop of preventing or avoiding that sort of accident. So it's your whole fabric of your working life is to avoid it. So when it actually happens, it's quite disruptive. And even to those that I know that are not, I would say, sort of masculine, get on with it, sort of, stiff upper lip types, it still affected them, you can tell, and they've mentioned this. And it's because it affects what you try to do. And of course, one of the things that I found during that process was my faith really clarified how I felt and how I could deal with that sort of situation in my life, because it did affect me quite badly. I still feel it now in my emotions, because it rips your life to bits. It does really, like I say, affect what you always try to avoid. But my faith helped because of my sort of understanding through the scriptures and through discussions that it's not a perfect world. We're not in heaven. And I heard it quite a lot of people that have a difficult faith, or they may be agnostic or atheists or whatever you that say, well, there can't be a God because God wouldn't allow that to happen. God's all powerful. If God's such a powerful thing, then he wouldn't actually allow that to take place. And he wouldn't allow lots of things to take place. But as we know, this isn't heaven. This is a broken world. This is, if you really look at the literacy of the scriptures, it's Adam and Eve broke the world. They were given the Garden of Eden. Human sin took over and broke the world. So we're not in heaven. We're in a broken world. So I think if we understand that, it helps us to not try to second guess God and think what he should do and what we think he should do, which we shouldn't do that at all. We're not equipped for that. But to understand it's a broken world and it's not heaven. We're not living in heaven, not yet anyway. And I think that helps to understand these things that happen. It helps to understand that God's with you, that God's with those people that died, but also just importantly that God's with all the people that were involved in it, the people that have got to move those poor people out of the aeroplane, that have that have got to find out why the aircraft crashed, that have got to do their security jobs at the airport, that have got to get on with life, that are passengers that have got to get onto other aeroplanes that have just seen what they've seen. And God's with all those people and trying to help them and look after them. And if they were open to that, more open to that, they'd find more solace and more peace. And it was nice in my faith, or very reassuring in my faith, to know that God was with us during that time, even in this broken world, and helped me through it. And I think that's the biggest thing that's happened to me over the last sort of weeks since we last did the last one.
Well, it was big. It was all over the news.
Well, yeah, aircraft crashes always are spectacular because there's a massive ball of flame, there's a big noise, it's a spectacular event. But again, some people say, well, it's 4 people, but probably 20 people died on the roads that day.
Yeah.
But it was 4 people. But it was the spectacular side of it. And I can understand that point of view. There's only 4 people out of many that die in a day. And I might sound like I'm making a big deal out of it, but the reason is because it's close to my heart.
Yeah.
You know, my name is Christopher. It's St. Christopher is the patron saint of travel. I've bought into that because I've been in travel all my life, whether it be in motor vehicles, boats, airplanes, whatever. I've always been in engineering particularly and in travel. And I've always taken the view that St. Christopher's a patron saint of travel, and I want to and he kept Jesus safe, carried him over the river.
Yep.
And I want to keep people safe. And every week I pray a special prayer on Sunday that I ask God to help me make the right decisions in my life and in my work that keep people safe in flying. So yeah, it's a big deal for me because it's so close to home. Yeah. And it happened 500 yards away from where I work.
Yeah.
And I saw all the recovery procedures. I saw all the people on the airfield going past, and it was just so close to home. So yeah, it is one accident out of many, but it affected me particularly quite a lot.
Well, you've pointed this out to me, but I've recently found, it's been a long build up to it, but I've sort of found a community at a church in Whittam.
Oh, St. Nick's.
St. Nick's. And it's probably for the first time in my life since I was like a child, a good handful of the congregation are actually my age. My whole story has been going to a church, and I'm the only person, forget under 30, under 60. And it's a very horrible thing to think, but I am sat there thinking, where are all the young people my age, and why am I not there? You know what? I feel like I'm out of step or something like that, and it's been great to get lots of wisdom. I've had a lot of people that have lived lives, Father Robert and people like that, and Father John, and you get you learn a lot of lessons without having to make mistakes when you talk to people that are a bit older. But you can't talk about, the things you've grown up, what stuff you watch on TV and all that stuff. Anyway, St. Nick's, there's a good half dozen people that are sort of my age, just on that turn of 30. And not only do we, chat in church, we then all go to the pub afterwards, and you've come along to that. And it's a great atmosphere. It's rowdy, and, we're discussing the Bible one second, but then we're discussing something on TV the next, and video games and all that sort of stuff. And it's evolved even more. The curate, the trainee priest there, has set up a Dungeons and Dragons group for us all, which, that's another level of nerdiness for me. I'm already a nerd, but that was like, but I did it because I thought, it's a bunch of mates, and it's actually really good fun. It's just a laugh, really. You just play it through a board game, essentially, and you sort of act out the scenes, but it's like an improv comedy session, really. And so we're all having this massive laugh, and so I've got these multiple levels of community, which is what church should be. Yeah. And I've found it now. I've got the church itself, people I know, doing a service together. Then we all go for a pint, and then we all go play a game.
Yeah, I think it's so important. If you can get a church that has that that spirit that you almost say, "I will go to church to meet my mates."
Yeah.
And that's so rare, because there's so many churches where we all, I look at the for the program Downton Abbey,
Yeah.
where they all go to church, and they all file. I know it's Victorian times and whatever, but they all file in silently. They all sit down in great reverence. They all go through the process of the Mass in great reverence and care, and then they all file out afterwards, not saying a word to anybody apart from some platitudes to the priest, and then walking down the path talking to each other. So they've not actually had any kind of social interaction with anybody in the church. So yeah, you can go to a tea ceremony, as I call it, the coffee thing after church, but that tends to be cliquey and tends to be not really fluid. So it's nice to have mates like you've developed at St Nick's, and it's really good that you go to the pub and you get the vicar there, you get the curate, you get the choir master, you get all the choir, and they're all just waffling on and having a chat, and that can go on sometimes for half an hour. Sometimes when I've been there, it can go on for like 3 hours.
You can.
And you get chucked out. But I think, I'm nice to see that happening for you. It's a really good
It's good
thing.
to have an energy. It's like if you walk into a restaurant or a bar, if there's no energy, if it's dead, you just want to get out of there.
I know.
But you walk in and there's an energy. And the other thing I love is that it's an evening service. It's actually a very, very old traditional service.
Yeah.
Evensong, isn't it?
Book of Common Prayer,
Book of Common Prayer.
Yeah.
But it's been brilliant for me because, like a lot of people my age, I do shift work and I work weekends. So I can't always get to St Mary's on a Sunday morning.
Yeah.
But an evening service, I can do that.
Yeah.
So it's really worked out for me, sort of, all the things that, I'm young, I'm a nerd, I do shift work. There are all these sort of things that could make me not fit into a church, but bang, 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 it's all worked out nicely. So, who knows how long it will last, but it's been really nice to make friends, not just go to church as a sort of feeling of duty.
No, that's right.
But I actually want to go.
It is. You want to go to church to meet your mates, I think. That's a good thing. When Jesus saw the crowds, he went up the mountain, and after he sat down, his disciples came to him. Then he began to speak and taught them, saying, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will receive mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when people revile you and persecute you, and utter all kinds of evil against you falsely on my account. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward is great in heaven. For in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you."
There was a lot in there, Dad.
There is.
What jumped out at you?
It's the whole thing to me, because it's almost saying that God's blessing all these people that do these things or are in these positions, which is totally logical, he would put his blessings on all these people. And it sort of tells me that some of the stuff that I do, I'm blessed for. And other bits that I really probably want to try a little bit harder doing as well. But it also reminds us that God is with us when we are persecuted and when we're ridiculed. And you see that on a daily basis when you have faith, especially in the modern world. People think you're mad and you believe in all sorts of nonsense. But I think it's just a very nice, in my view, it's just a really nice way of saying how God looks at us when we do these things.
Yeah, it's a nice way to look at it. I noticed that last bit as well. It's hard not to. It's probably timeless. It's probably always been unpopular, except for a very short couple of centuries in Europe, to hold these sort of beliefs. But I think you can expand that out as well. I think a lot of people feel reviled for holding their beliefs, whether they're religious or cultural or political. There's a lot of tension. Not Carl Jung. I think it was Nietzsche that said you're punished most for your morals. And what I take from that is people get annoyed when you try and better yourself, or even if you're not attacking anyone. We've all got that friend that's a vegan and they get treated terribly because everyone thinks they're being judged by them, and they're not. They just don't want to eat meat. Yeah. There are some vegans that like to have a go, but I've not met one myself.
No.
And I think people can look on that with religious people sometimes, like we're silently judging them. Some Christians do, because they forget that it's really about telling yourself what to do.
Yeah.
But I thought there's a lot to take comfort in that, not just for religious people, that it's okay, you're in a long line of great people that are trying to live their best lives, that are going to be looked on sourly. That's part of the process. You're not doing it wrong if you're unintentionally annoying people, or they're just, as my generation would call, haters. I think in your day it was just that they were jealous.
Yeah. I not just jealous, just sometimes because you're different.
Yeah.
Is good enough. I mean, it's the core of racism. It's the core of any kind of unreasonable behaviour against a certain person that has beliefs or is a certain colour or whatever. But it's just that they're different to me, so therefore we should throw them out of society because they're different. We all got to be the same. And I think there's also sometimes we can make it a little bit worse for ourselves. We've got to be, I think, as Christians, what we do, and we do it every week when we go to church, and every time we do a service, we pray for our forgiveness of our sins. We ask God to help us do things in a better way, and we try and live a life where we're constantly criticising ourselves to live up to Jesus and God's teachings. We constantly try and improve. So we have this constant rhythm message of we're obviously not doing good enough. We're always failing, but we're okay. That's okay. It's okay to fail, but we want to do better. We want to do better. And sometimes when you're broadcasting that message, you can appear to be criticising people because they don't fully get the concept that you're not doing it in an egotistical way. You're not trying to belittle each other. You're just trying to accept the fact we're all human beings and we're all trying to overcome our little foibles and sins that we do on a weekly and daily basis. And sometimes that can, and particularly if that comes out a little bit pontificatious, then you can sound like you're judging somebody and you've got to be there because and all this stuff, and that can lead to persecution. Yeah, I think so. Sometimes we've got to watch it. Yeah, I mean, we've persecuted. Well, not I haven't, and we haven't, but I mean, we had the we had knights of old that used to go out to the the Far East and subjugate people. We've had missionaries going into the jungle, sometimes for good reasons, sometimes for not. And so we have persecuted as well as been persecuted.
Yeah.
But yes, you will be persecuted, whether you're a Muslim, whether you're a Jew, whether you're black, whether you're whatever, you will be persecuted. And I think it's interesting to know in our Bible that actually tells us that in that persecution you will be blessed. You'll be supported by God.
Yeah.
Like I said previously, it's a broken world. It's not heaven. So people will persecute us. And it reminds us of that, the last passage. Yeah.
And in that, trying still to make peace.
Yes.
Which is the passage that popped out at me the most, is blessed are the peacemakers.
Peacemakers.
Now, Father Andrew inadvertently helped me with this passage a while back, because I've often quoted blessed are the peacemakers in a political sense, because there are a lot of people that love war for some reason. And I'm often been the finger-wagging person saying blessed are the peacemakers, but it's because I slightly misunderstood the word. Father Andrew always signs off his email saying shalom. And I thought, I wonder what that actually means. And I looked it up, and one of the definitions is making peace. It's peace, but it also means inner peace. And this really helped me, because a while ago I thought, I'm really conflicted in myself. I'm at war with myself. And do I believe? Do I not believe? What do I believe? What do I want my life to be? What values do I want to put at the center of my being? There's a lot of wrestling within my soul that I'm struggling with. And I kind of signed off on myself saying, well, that's just who I'm always going to be. I'm always going to be a bit broken inside, but I can maybe try and, sounds a bit egotistical, but try and do good and try and make peace in the world, even though I'm broken inside.
Yeah, that's not egotistical.
But when I read his definition of shalom, that it also means inner peace, something clicked where I went, oh, I'm going to have to fix myself before I fix the world.
Definitely.
Because how can I possibly bring peace into the world if I'm at war inside? So it was kind of saying, come on now, step up. You don't get to give up on yourself. You've got to, and as soon as I figured that out, I went, oh, that's going to be hard work. That's not what I want to do. But that's the oldest story in the book, isn't it? God gives you a task you don't want to do. It's always, oh, not this, God, anything but this, because that's your weak spot.
Yeah.
But that's what you got to fix. So blessed are the peacemakers. It's not just making peace with a nation, making peace with your brother. It's also making peace with yourself.
With yourself, yeah.
And perhaps that's the first step, and then out from that you can start to fix your family, start to fix your town. You know what I mean? Like you've got to start with yourself.
Yeah, you can't do these things if you're broken yourself. And the big deal is that you've got to understand that God loves you no matter who you are. It doesn't matter what you do, who you are. God loves you as a person. And if you can really buy into that and get it, then it gives you that comfort in your own skin. Yeah. To a degree. I mean, we're human beings. We'll always worry about what we say and what we do and what we look like and what people think of us and stuff like that. It's a natural part of this world, being a human mammal. But I think knowing that God loves you and what you do, if you're doing, as the Beatitudes says, these things, then He blesses you and loves you for it. And yeah, it's difficult. These things are difficult. We're not Jesus. We're not divine. We're human beings, and we're born as human beings, and we make mistakes, and we have all these feelings inside us. These feelings that we want to punish people. We want revenge. We want to make people feel pain when they say things against us and stuff like that. And these are all internal fights that God and Jesus are demonstrating to us in this passage, that you want to fight them, you want to stop that, and you want to be blessed for being a peacemaker, for thirsting for righteousness, for being merciful, for being pure in heart. And this is what God wants you to be and wants you to bless you for it. And the closer you can get to that, the better. But it's not easy. And like you say, you've got to start with yourself. You've got to be sort of comfortable that God's with you and he loves you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think for me, I mean, the Peacemakers one, that's very interesting what you said about that. The one that is here is, blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. And that sort of strikes me because I see lots of people of all different types in my work and in private life, and none of us are really, really pure in heart. When you say pure, we mean pure. None of us are like that. We've all got our problems, and we've all got to say sorry at the end of the week for it. But the pure in heart seems to be a beautiful concept, because pure in heart is almost like a newborn baby. It has no anger. It has pain and it has sorrow, but it has no anger. It has no revenge. It has no mental damage. So to achieve pure in heart as an adult must be incredible, must be a wonderful thing. But I guess what it's saying here is that blessed are those who are pure in heart, and the closer that you can get to that, the better. But it's a lovely concept for me, being pure in heart.
Yeah, and maybe we just have little moments of being pure in heart. Like every now and then could be just helping an old lady cross the street. And your motivations are completely pure as well. You're not doing it for any manipulation. You could have little moments throughout the week where you're pure in heart, and that's where you're closer to that divine spirit that you're aiming at.
Yeah, I think, and the blessed side of it is interesting in a way. I think I might have touched on this in a previous chapter, but also you can feel the blessing, because when you do something for somebody, whether it's an old lady across the street, or you give somebody some food, you give a beggar a McDonald's beef burger or something like that, who's obviously on the street with no food, that lovely feeling of helping somebody, that pleasure that you think, oh, that's nice. That's a blessing. That's almost God working through you. That's like a feeling of His blessing, because you know you've done the right thing. You're quite proud of what you've done, which you should be, and you feel good about it. And why, when you help somebody, what if we talk about as being animals? Say we're animals. We're just like a dog or a cat, and we help somebody. Why should we feel good about it? Why is that an instinct? Why is that in us? Is it a survival of the race or what? But I think it's God's blessing working through us, and we just feel good because we feel His pleasure on us.
Especially if we're the only one that knows.
Yeah,
because you could
you
could say, "Oh, I'm going to look good in front of everyone."
Yeah.
But if you've done it privately,
that's right.
That's a different story.
It's very much between you if you've done it privately, yeah, and it's between you and God, yeah.
Yeah, it's a very deep passage. I think that's one of the passages we could go forever on it.
Yeah, you could pick all these out and talk about them forever.
There's a reason it stood the test of time.
Yeah.
You are the salt of the earth, but if salt has lost its taste, how can its saltiness be restored? It is no longer good for anything, but is thrown out and trampled underfoot. You are the light of the world. A city built on a hill cannot be hidden. No one, after lighting a lamp, puts it under the bushel basket, but on the lampstand, and it gives light to all in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father in heaven. Well, I liked the second half of that, Dad. I liked the light of the world part, and It's kind of what we mentioned just a moment ago about essentially leading by example, not bossing people around, not wagging your finger at them, but set the standard.
Yeah.
And I've done that briefly in my life, but I remember one time I did do it at a job I had a few years ago. For some reason, I just went in and said, let me just be the best version of myself at work. Because I'm usually quite grouchy at work. I think I'm above my work and all that sort of egotistical stuff. But I thought I'll go in and really try. And it really made everyone positive. Like, I got on with people more. People were happy to see me. And I was like, oh my God, this is like magic. And it consciously, and I didn't tell anyone this, but I was trying to live the best Christian life I could. Treat everyone as if they had a divine spirit like me. And, I was just trying it out. And people really liked me, even though they might not say they were Christians. And if I started going off about the Bible, they'd probably start rolling their eyes. But I was trying to live my best life, and it really helped. And that's kind of what I see here about don't hide your light away, put it up for everyone to see, is live your absolute best self and let that sort of light metaphorically sort of shine off you. And I found that really worked. And then what's lovely about the last bit, Father Andrew does this, is it says, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father in heaven. Now, you could say they're giving glory, but I think you could read it the other way, is when people start complimenting you. This is what Father Andrew always does. You say, oh, that was a brilliant service. And he goes, oh, it's all that big man. It's all God. He was just flowing through me. I'm just his servant. He never takes a compliment. He always gives it to God. And I think that's humility, and that's the way to do it. So there's a lot in that second half. But I struggled with the first half because it says, you're the salt of the earth, but if the salt loses its taste, it's no longer good for anything. And the whole point of our religion is redemption, and it kind of makes it sound like if we lose our goodness, we're no longer good for anything. Does that mean that we can't get it back? If saltiness can't get its taste back, is that a contradiction?
I think it's not. I think I sort of followed you on the second half was a lot easier than the first. And I'm thinking, well, first of all, I'm an engineer, so I'm thinking, well, how can salt lose its taste? It can't. The only way it can lose its taste is by becoming something other than salt.
Right.
So it doesn't work for me particularly because I'm an engineer. Sodium chloride is salty, no matter. It doesn't just not become salty. It can't do, But the point that I think's been made here is you are the salt of the earth, is one point. And it's defining the fact that you are made of salt, if you like. And if the salt has lost its taste, how can its saltiness be restored? So forget the engineering side of it. Imagine you've got some salt there and it loses its taste, it's old salt. I'd use probably being the engineer, the problem with salt, I'd probably go on spices. The spices go dead. Yeah. Unless you've got to keep them fresh and they've got to be, So why is it, if it's lost its saltiness, then it's, in other words, if your spirituality, your faith has lost its vigour, then you might as well not have it because it's useless. Yeah. Like the salt becomes useless. So a person with faith that doesn't feel the faith, that just goes to church and goes through the same old thing every week and doesn't change their life, doesn't do anything, just goes to church, comes home, goes to church, and we do know that people do that occasionally. What he's saying is it's pointless. It's pointless. You might as well throw it away because it's pointless. You've got to be salty. You've got to, when you go, you've got to listen to God. Your faith has got to be useful. It's got to do something for others. It's got to do something for your connection with God. It's got to develop your love with God. Like the Beatitudes, you've got to get better and better and better at those sort of blessings. Yeah. And I think it's coming from that direction, really, is don't just let yourself go stale in your religion.
I didn't see it like that. That's really interesting.
That's what I see. Yeah. The second bit, beautiful. I see that the light, you light a light, you shine above everybody. You don't then... And this to me is taking your faith out into the world. Don't become a Christian, and then when you go out into the world, put it in a box till next Sunday. Don't hide it under a bushel lamp, put your light under it in a box, and then hide it until you go to church next week. That's not what we want to do. We want to be seen to be people of faith in the Christian faith, because you're spreading the good news, you're spreading the message in a way. And you don't have to go around battering everybody on the head saying you should do this and you should do that and you're not holy as me and I'm better than you. That's not how it's done at all.
Yeah.
I remember it's little things that make people think, I think anyway. And I remember probably about 6 months ago, almost a year ago now, there's a guy that was talking to on the phone, and one of my customers, really nice guy, and his mother, I think it was his mother or his father, I can't remember now, one of them had died, just died the day before. And I was talking to him and I said, I'm really sorry about that, that's really terrible. I said, I know you feel, I've lost both my parents and what have you, I do understand that. I said, and then I said, and this is where you're risking it a little bit. I said, and I'm going to say a prayer in church for your mum on Sunday. And his first reaction was, oh, you don't believe in all that nonsense and claptrap, do you? And that's straight out on the phone, really. It was quite, in a way, it was rude.
Yeah.
But mum had just died, and and it's all connected to that.
Yeah.
And you're saying, and if he's an atheist or an agnostic, and then you say you're going to pray for your mum that's just died, it's probably slightly annoying.
Yeah.
But sometimes you've just got to keep your light on top of the hill, not under a bushel lamp.
Yeah.
And I just said to him, I said, no, yeah, I said, well, I do, I said, I don't like to bother God too much, but I do, And he said, oh, okay. Anyway, the next time I talked to him, he said, by the way, I'm really sorry for what I said.
Yeah.
I said, why, what's up? He said, well, when I said your nonsense and rubbish and everything and your beliefs, I said, don't worry about it. It's not a problem, honestly. I said, it's not a problem. A lot of people say that and believe that what we do is nonsense and waffle. But he became respectful to it, thanked me for it. And it's that little bit of made him think. It just made him think. And he'd taken that away, obviously, and thought about it.
Yeah.
He'd have thought about, well, perhaps I was a bit rude in reacting like that. But then he might, and I've had this from other people I remember there's a guy that I knew that he had a fatal illness, it was going to kill him. And he told me once that and this is a very common thing, that he'd left his faith many years ago when his mother had died. Because in this world, God shouldn't let my mother die in the way that she died. And it's that theme again, I think, of this isn't heaven we're in a broken world. People die, people think horrible things go on. This isn't heaven. We're not living in heaven. So God will not prevent these things, or can't prevent these things, if we're living our lives in a way that is not as he wished us to. So he sort of said, well, my mum died in this way, so he said, I gave up believing in anything at that point, I said, okay. And then he became ill. And then he became very ill, and he became terminal. And I said to him, I'm going to pray for you this week. He said, thank you, I'd really appreciate that. So it's funny how your position can change depending on your own personal circumstances. Yeah. But also that although that he was probably angry at God when his mum died and rationalised what happened in a different way than, say, I would, and became sort of anti. And it was, I think, sometimes blaming God for things like that is almost a way of venting your anger onto something else.
Yeah. Well, it's natural to be angry at God.
It is, and you've got to find a target for it. And everybody's being nice to you at the time. Where's your target, But he did change later on, and I don't know whether it was his faith had changed or not. I'm not sure. We didn't talk about that very deeply, but he accepted my prayers And from then on, he was grateful for them whenever I did them.
Yeah.
And I let him know people were praying for him. And we brought it into Compline and we brought it into
We did.
church. And I let him know that there was lots of people praying for him. And little things like that, they're not big things, but they're little seeds. So not putting your height under a bushel basket. It's not about going out there and standing on a street corner shouting that Jesus is coming and you're all going to be, it's about I think it's about little seeds.
Yeah.
Lots and lots of little seeds everywhere.
Little kindnesses.
Little kindnesses, and not just kindnesses like a Cub Scout would let a lady over the road, but an indication of where it's coming from.
Yeah.
And we're talking about leading by example, weren't we?
Yeah.
Well, that's how babies learn how to do things from the parents. I think it's called mimesis, where they copy what the parents do. And it's a human way of learning. So sometimes I think living your life as a Christian, if people know you're a Christian, but you don't go around berating them for everything they don't do that's Christian, but if you live your life as a Christian, people watch you doing it. So through mimesis, they think, oh, that's not a bad idea, that.
Yeah.
And it just still little seeds everywhere. And sometimes, because I don't think evangelism comes from battering people around the head and making them go to church. I think evangelism comes from little seeds growing in their own mind.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've often thought, if you're screaming at people, for every one person you do convert, you've scared 10 people away.
Yeah.
If not 100.
Oh, yeah. I've seen,
I think it's quite counterproductive.
Yeah. I used to see people coming to the back of church. And everybody wants them, come to sit at the front. But there's a reason that they're at the back. And generally the further at the back they are, the less confident they are.
Yeah.
People will say that's not the case, but I honestly do believe that I've seen that people that are confident in the faith, really confident in it, truly confident in it, want to be right in there. Whereas the people they might be shy as well, but they sit at the back. And sometimes you don't want the priest saying, oh, you sit in the back, come to the front.
Yeah.
Because that person might be really in a delicate situation and all they're seeking is that little chink of light in their life and they're experimenting to come into church. And the last thing they need is instant wallop. They just need to be left alone to listen and to think.
Yeah.
And if the message from the front is kind, loving, and optimistic, then hopefully they'll take that message away. So, evangelism isn't all about in your face banging the drum,
Yep.
Do not think that I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have come not to abolish, but to fulfill. For truly I tell you, until heaven and earth pass away, no one letter, no one stroke of a letter will pass from the law until it is accomplished. Therefore, whoever breaks one of the least of these commandments and teaches others to do the same will be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever does them and teaches them will be called great in the kingdom of heaven. For I tell you, unless your righteousness exceeds that of the scribes and Pharisees, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven.
He's having a go at the Pharisees again, Dad.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
He doesn't give them a break. Just something to mention, that when he says, I've come to fulfill the law, he's referencing the Old Testament and all the laws. But the Pharisees were using all those rules to sort of make people miserable and control them and to be the pillars of goodness and all the stuff we've just been talking about, of like wagging your finger at people. And he's come along, and the Sermon on the Mount is kind of him explaining the meaning behind those books. He's not saying that he's rewriting them. He's just clarifying what they actually mean.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, and he doesn't like people that take these words and twist them for their own advantage.
Okay.
That's a sort of historical, theological way of looking at it. Personally, I felt quite vindicated reading it, because I wish he came back and did that to all the people today that are twisting the words and using, it's a human instinct to sort of take a set of rules and make it work for you.
Yeah.
But here he's saying, not one stroke of this will, not one stroke of a letter will change, to stop trying to change it.
Yeah.
So it kind of felt good to say it. But the chances are, although I'm imagining who he would say it to, chances are he'd come and say it to me. So, you know what I mean? Like, we all imagine that the others are the people getting the Bible wrong, and chances are it's actually us as well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We're all human beings. But I think I was told and taught by a very wise priest, Father John Dickens, when I first started doing Bible reading with them in a really proper way, what I consider a proper way anyway, he told me that you should read the Bible with love in your heart. And do you know what? That it does give you a protection when you do that. Because if you're not careful, you can make the Bible fit what you want to say. And people do have done that in the past. Lots and lots of people have done that. You will hear people quoting chapters of the Bible to, support what they've just decided, good or bad. And if you read it with love in your heart, if you approach the Bible with love in your heart, then I think you will get the right messages from it. But you will also meet problems, especially in the Old Testament, especially with love in regard to vengeance and recriminations and stuff like that. And there are some chapters that are difficult when you do that. But I think, generally speaking, if you read the Bible with love, then you'll avoid how the Pharisees and scribes tended to move things around a little bit, to make it fit for what they wanted to achieve. But yes, I see in this bit, yeah, we can see that. We can see him saying that he's not against the scriptures, the Jewish scriptures, if you like, the Old Testament. He's not against that. In fact, he wants to see it come to fruit and come to witness, but in the correct way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see that, yeah.
And at the end where he says, unless your righteousness exceeds that of the scribes and Pharisees, the way I kind of see that is he's saying, unless you stop trying to make it work for you and show off how righteous you are, you're not going to get it.
Yeah, I didn't quite see that, but I think that's a really good point on that one. Yeah, I think so. Because if you bend the Bible to suit yourself, or the teachings of God to suit yourself, then you're not going to get in the kingdom of heaven, because you're not there. You're not anywhere near it.
And you can even use the kingdom of heaven to mean the world we live in, that if you do go around bending and twisting things to your own will, you're not going to be very happy. You're not going to live a good life, because it's all going to catch up with you. No. So even heaven on earth, which we try and get sometimes, you're not even going to get that.
No, not in a spiritualist sense. No, because you'll never find peace doing that. You'll be trying to achieve something that's impossible to achieve. It's I see it quite often in my life where I hear people saying, it's that old Alan, I don't know if you've ever seen Alan Partridge, done by Steve Coogan, and one of his favourite phrases is, and of course I had the last laugh. It's like, Steve Coogan makes Alan Partridge one of the most objectionable people you could ever imagine with no social acumen whatsoever. And naturally I had the last laugh. Is I was right in the end, or I proved my point, or I made that other person small.
Yeah.
And I hear that a fair bit in my life when other people want to belittle people or make them inferior to them, and they get great pleasure in doing that. And I think it's a similar thing to bending the Bible.
Yeah.
It may be a short-term boost your ego a little bit, but it ain't going to help you anywhere. No. It's not going to give you peace. You're going to be doing it, and the more you do it, the more you're going to have to do it.
Yeah.
And the bigger your ego becomes. That is not the kingdom of heaven, definitely.
So, how did those readings make you feel? What sort of came out of them for you?
They give me comfort, I think, because they sort of tell me I'm on the right track.
Yeah.
I don't mean I'm getting it right. That's not what I mean at all.
Yeah.
But at least my thoughts and what I'm aiming to try and be as best I can are on the right track. So there's a warm feeling from that. It is a little bit like an instruction manual.
Yeah.
The Beatitudes are, although they're saying you will be blessed, it's almost the saying you should do this, you should do that, because you will be blessed through it. So it's a bit of an instruction manual there. And also the salt and the light were a reinforcement to me how we should all try to wear our faith as a badge, not a bright badge, not a flashing badge, but a badge that people can see and through mimesis follow and think, oh, that's not a bad idea. At least he's not threatening me, and he's not going to control me, and he's not trying to say I'm not good. It's a positive badge, you know. So I took. I mean, the Beatitudes were terrific. You could have debated and talked about those for ages, and because especially the text that's used and the words that are used in it. But I think that's more or less sums up what we've done so far for me.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I was nervous, but I was very much thinking, building up to this, how important the Beatitudes specifically, but the Sermon on the Mount are to me. And I remember thinking, this is, we've only done a few episodes so far. I'm not sure I'm ready for this text. And I was talking about it with a friend of mine in the pub, and I said, yeah, it's just, the Beatitudes are a really big deal for me, and I just don't know what I'm going to say on them. And he said, well, maybe you should figure out why they're a big deal to you. And I went, oh, that's a good point, actually. And I think what it is I'm looking, now there's a danger in this, but I'm looking for what you just said there, a rule book, a guideline of how to live your life, because the modern world is so fractured and chaotic, and everyone's doing their own thing, and it feels like everyone's against each other. I'm trying to find my path, and now I think you've seen, as I have, people that have tried to force that just so they've got something. And that can be quite dangerous. Desperate for meaning, you'll cling on to anything. But that's why they're important to me, because it's kind of the New Testament's version of the Ten Commandments. It's Christ standing on a rock saying, this is what things should be like. This is what I want from you.
Yeah.
But I have to say, in reading it, it's still up in the air. It's still subjective. It's still for you to find it.
Absolutely.
It's not. I can't go, oh, well, that's how I'm going to live my life. I'll just be a robot.
No.
I've still got to figure out what that even means.
Yeah.
So there's more journey to be had, I think. So
the journey will never end.
So I think you're right in it not being a rule book, more of a guideline. And like you're saying, it's the sense of being on the right path.
Yeah. I think it's telling you what, it's not an absolute rule block.
No.
It's telling you what you would be blessed for doing.
Yeah.
How you achieve that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the rules that you self-impose on yourself, they're not in there. They're for you to decide. But that's basically what you should be achieving. How you do that is down to you. And okay, you've got the Ten Commandments that are limitations, but nonetheless, it's still a guide. I think, particularly for, I don't think it's dangerous at all, as long as you approach it with love, and as long as you approach it with prayer, with asking God to guide you, and truly asking God to guide you, not saying, God, confirm what I'm thinking. God, guide me. You know, and if you approach it like that and you approach it with love, then you will find your journey through those. And I think sometimes if you, rules are basic rules like this, blessing the meek, blessing the peacemakers, the 10 Commandments, thou shalt not covet your neighbour's wife, etc., etc. They're all brilliant stuff, because the one thing that I see in modern society, which is, I think, is a poison in society, and it is an absence of faith. And I don't care if it's Islam, I don't care if it's Judaism, I don't care if it's Christianity or Buddhism, I don't care. But all of them have guidelines, and they're generally good guidelines. All the faiths have good guidelines. The poison that I hear, and I said this myself in my younger life, is that I'm a decent chap. I know what's right and wrong. I can live my life in a right way because I know that what I do is it. The truth of that is that's a complete load of rubbish. Because you will always, the human being will always justify their own position. You need somebody to tell you, even if it's your mum or your dad, or your brother or your sister, what they have their own levels of what's right and what's wrong. God and Jesus and Muhammad will have, and Buddha will be a much better set of guidelines than an arbitrary human made up sense of self guidance. It'll never work. Human beings can never do that. They'll always justify something that'll fit them. Always. We'll all do it. And anybody that says, oh, no, I won't do that, is fooling themselves, because they will. They're all human beings. So you need a guidance for living your life in peace, and peace of other people has to come from a divine place, in my opinion.
I agree.
God is. So I quite like that. You know, I mean, I'm 66 years old now, and sometimes I need reminding, oi, come on. And everybody does. Not just kids. Everybody needs that. And I think that's what is lovely having a faith, is you can get somebody that loves you reminding you.